Hey guys, I'm going to teach you all about measures of center. By the end of this lesson, you'll be able to summarize data by finding the mean and median in the data set. So go ahead and get out your binder, turn to the math section. Let's go ahead and take some notes. So let's look at an example with celebrity height. And in this case, we're looking at a population of male actors. This is a sample of that population, and above each person, you can see their height. It's feet, then inches. So this person is 5'2", ranging to 6'5". So you just heard me use that word range. The range in a data set is the difference between the tallest and the shortest, or the most and the least. The difference between those numbers is called the range. You've also probably heard of mode. Mode is the most frequent. So in this case, there is no mode because there's not more than one of these heights, but if there was multiple heights, it would be the one that appeared the most. What we're going to look at today is measures of center. So we want to be able to summarize this data set by looking at the middle, or like the average. So there's two important words that we're going to learn today, median and mean. These are both measures of center that show us different things about our data set and can be useful to summarize our data or to look for trends. So let's get some definitions down, and then we will practice finding the median and the mean with this data set. The first thing we need to know is what we've already said. A measure of center is a way of summarizing the data. Two ways we do that. One is finding the mean, one is by finding the median. We'll start by looking at mean. We see the mean all the time in everyday life. And I don't mean mean as in like you're being angry at somebody. The mean of a data set is the average. So you see free throw averages in basketball. As a teacher, I look for the average test score to know if my class as a whole has met my mastery goal. Mean is very important. And there's a very specific process for finding the mean or the average. You want to start by finding the sum of your data set. After you found the sum, you divide by the number of data points. When I think of mean, I think of average, but you can also think of it as fair share. So using this sample of the population of male actors in Hollywood, we can make a prediction about the average height of the population of male actors in Hollywood by finding the mean. To do that, we'll start by adding up all the heights. Since the heights are listed in feet and inches, I'm going to want to convert all of these to just inches, and then at the end, I can convert back to feet and inches. So let's find the average height in inches. Pause the video now to do that and press play when you're ready to check. I got a sum of 985 inches. And to find the mean, the next step is to divide by the number of data points. In this example, each of these celebrities is a data point. Since there's 14 celebrities, I'm going to divide by the number 14. Take a second, pause the video, do that now, and press play when you're ready to check. When you do that, you'll get the average celebrity height in inches. Since these are all listed in feet and inches, take a second and convert this into feet and inches and press play when you're ready to really check. All right, so I found a mean height of about 5'10". That means that the average celebrity height in this data set is about 5'10". So it is not exactly this number in the data set. It's just that if I put an average person into this group, I could pull out somebody that would be close to this height. And notice that that celebrity is about here in the middle. Another way to think about the average or the mean is fair share. So let's look at this example with gumballs and these machines. Start by counting how many gumballs are in each machine. I count 11 in the first one, 5 in the second one, and 8 in the third one. Now what I want to do is move them around to create an equal number of gumballs in each machine. What would be the fair share? I would start by taking this A gumball machine and moving some of the gumballs out into B. So when I go down one from A, I'm at 10, and this is now at 6. Go down one more, 9. This is now at 7. Go down one more, 8, and now this one's at 8. This one's already at 8, so now there's a fair share in each one. 8, 8, and 8. So if every gumball machine had a fair share, there would be 8 in each one. This is another way to look at the mean, because if I added all these numbers, I would get 24. Then if I divide that number 24 by the 3 gumball machines, I'll also get 8. That's the average number of gumballs per machine. So there's really only 2 steps to finding the mean. You find the sum, and then you divide by the total number of data points. So let's look at some practice problems. The first one says this list below shows the shoe size for 8 students in Mr. Perdito's class. They are not in order, but you don't need them to be in order to find the mean. All you have to do is add all these numbers and then divide by the number of data points, in this case 8. So take a second and start by adding up all these numbers. Press play when you're ready to check. All right, the sum of these data points is 88. Now I need to divide by 8 because there's 8 students in the class. Take a second, divide by 8, and press play when you're ready to check. I got 11. So the average shoe size is 11. An average true size of 11 makes sense with these data points because you have some high numbers like 13, 12, 12, and 12. That's definitely the mode of this data set. But you also have some lower numbers like 8 and 9.5 and 10.5. So those kind of average out to be 11. When I find the mean, I always like to pause and look at the data set and make sure that my number makes sense. Let's look at number 2. The following data set represents the age of people in line to vote. I want you to try to find the mean all by yourself. So pause the video, find the sum of the sample, and divide by the number of people in line. Press play whenever you're ready to check. All right, so I added up the numbers, got a total of 490, and now I know there's 10 people in line because there's 10 data points. So I found an average age of 49. The range of my data set ranges from 27 being the youngest person in line to 72 being the oldest. The 72 is what skews that number higher. The 27 is what skews that number lower. Those numbers are called outliers. So the average is the really in between parts of these. But if you added someone really old into the mix, that's going to make your average go higher. Let's look at number 3. It's a little bit different because it's given to you in a frequency table. But we're going to use the same process to solve this. So it says the following data represents the number of times the phone rings when callers contact Comcast Cable Customer Service. So the phone rings 4 times, twice. The phone rings 5 times, 1 time. The phone rings 6 times, 2 times. It doesn't happen 7 times. You catch my drift. Now, when I look at this table, it looks very confusing because there's different numbers. What I want to do is make a list. Lists are easy to understand, like here and here. So I want to start by making a list of these numbers. Since the frequency tells me how many times it happens, I know that the 4 happens twice. There should be 2 4s. The number of times it rings 5 times is once. So I need to write 1 5. And so on. So anytime you're presented with a table, it's really important that you pull those numbers out and make a list. It's a lot easier to look at. A common mistake I see people make is that they'll try to do that, but to pull out the wrong numbers, they would pull out 2, 1, 2, 2, 1. If your numbers are all looking alike, you probably did it backwards. So make sure that there's some difference in your numbers. They wouldn't ask you a question if the only numbers were 1 and 2, most likely. So now we can easily find our sum and the mean. Take a second, pause the video now, and press play when you're ready to check. All right, so you should have gotten a sum of 50 and then a mean or average of 6.25 or 6 and a fourth. That means that the average time that a phone's going to ring when they call this cable service is 6 and a fourth of a time. Remember, it's okay when you find the mean that your number does not appear in the data set below. It's a true average. Now, on the other hand, the median is a measure of center that more often than not will appear in your data set. It's the middle of the data. You find the median by ordering your data in a list from least to greatest. Then you determine the middle of the data set. Let's look back at our example with the celebrity heights. We found a mean of 5'10", but let's go ahead and now find the median. What I do to find the median is that since they're already lined up from left to right, I look at one on each side and I cross them off. Then I look at the next 2 and cross them off. And I keep crossing one on each side until I get to the middle. The tricky thing about the median is that you might not always have someone perfectly in the middle. In this case, there's 2 people left. That is the case when the median will not appear in your data set. If there's not a middle number, you find the mean of the 2 middle numbers. So since the last 2 guys standing are 5'10" and 5'11", the median would be the average of those heights, or the number between them. I would add them up and divide by 2. In this case, it would be 5'10" and a half. So let's practice again with another real-life example of finding mean and median. This time we're going to use the celebrities that were in Hunger Games. So take a second, pause the video now, find the mean and the median, press play whenever you're ready to check. All right, so hopefully I did my math right finding the mean, but when I added all the heights up in inches, I got 692 divided by the 10 people, gives me an average height of 69.2 inches, which comes out to be 5'9.2. So somewhere between Jennifer Lawrence and Woody Harrelson. On the median, I want to cross out one on each side until I get to the middle. In this case, I have 2 people in the middle again, Stanley Tucci and Jennifer Lawrence. Notice that the mean height was somewhere between Jennifer Lawrence and Woody Harrelson, but the median height is going to be between Stanley Tucci and Jennifer Lawrence. So the average between 5'8" and 5'9" is 5'8" and a half. Since there wasn't one specific number that fell in the middle, since there was an even number of data points. Now, the mean is more useful to me. I like averages because as a teacher, I want to know what's the average score on a test or whatever. But the median can also be useful. Let's do some practice finding the median. The important thing that you know about median is that the data has to be in a list and it has to be in order from least to greatest. I'm going to look at number 4 and it gives me a data set It represents the number of inches of snowfall within a 2-week period. My very first step is going to get these numbers in order from least to greatest. I do that. I make a list below, and when I write the number, so I don't get confused, I cross it off from the list. This is a way to keep organized and to make sure that I don't write a number multiple times, because that will throw off the data in my set. I ran out of room and I can't write small enough, but if that happens to you, you can pull out a different piece of paper and you can write it down on that, and then cross out one on each side so you get to the middle. In this case, the median would be 1.25. Let's look at number 5. This is another one that's a little bit different because the representation of this data is like a little dot plot. Same way we did this for median, you want to pull out these numbers and say there's 1, 0. So you'd write 0 one time. There's 2, 1. So you'd write 1 twice. There's 1, 2. There's no 3s. There's 2 4s. You see how I'm getting these numbers? Make your list, line them up, and then find the median. Pause the video now to do that and press play when you're ready to check. All right, you should get a median of 3. One thing I see people try to do is a shortcut where they'll cross off the dots on this plot. When you do that, you would end up here. And when you get here, you're probably going to be stuck and trying to figure out also, should I cross off this dot or should I cross off this dot? That confusion won't happen if you just make a list. So do the same thing for number 6 all by yourself and then press play when you're ready to check. All right, you should have determined that the median is 23. All right, one more problem to look at. Let's look at number 7 all by yourself. There's 3 parts to it, so pause the video, take your time to go through them, and then press play when you're ready to check. All right, so here's your answers to check. The one thing I want to point out about this question specifically is that since all these data points are really close, the mean and the median are going to be close. There's not a lot of variability. However, when you look back at question 2, where we just found the mean of this data set, we got 49. If we had found the median, it would be about 41. There's a little bit of a difference between 41 and 49 here, and that's because of those outlier numbers. There's a 27, there's a 72. Those outliers are going to make this data a little more different when you're looking at the measure of center between the median and the mean, and you're going to have to just look at the situation for which one's going to be more useful to you, the mean or the median. I'll leave you with one more example to look at. You should find the mean and the median height of the Harry Potter cast and let me know whenever you have an answer. I will not be going over that in this video. All right, guys, that's it. If you made it to the end of this video, you can put in the comments the median and mean height of the Harry Potter cast. Today, we learned all about measures of center. So now you should be able to summarize data by finding the mean and median in a data set. Now you should go back to the calendar and put any other assignments you have left for the day. Let me know if you have any questions. Bye.